Okay, greetings and welcome to MS Dynamics World's Spring BI and Reporting Series. I'm Jason Gumpert and I'm really happy to have you all here with us. I am also glad to be able to welcome back Tom Totten, BI Solution Manager and Strategist at Dynamics Partner Columbus. And he's here today to discuss BI fundamentals for Dynamics ERP, a topic that continues to evolve in some very interesting ways, so I'm really looking forward to today's event. And we invite you to add your feedback and ask questions today. There are a couple ways you can do this. You can use the Q&A and the chat blocks that you should see to the right of the slides right now. And you can also use Twitter. We'll be tweeting from with the hashtag MSDWBI to take questions and comments. So please feel free to try that out as well. We'll be sure to leave some time at the end for Tom to take some of your questions. So without further delay, please allow me to introduce Tom Totten.
Thank you, Jason. And hello, everybody. I'm going to just get my presentation started here. Again, my name is Tom Totten. I've been with Columbus for 2 years now, in the BI space for about 5. I joined Columbus in a sales role and have developed into a sales engineer, consultant, solution architect, and trainer. I work with companies of all shapes and sizes, and basically I help customers and potential customers figure out what it is they need as far as information, and I help put together a solution that fits their needs and their budget. What we're going to talk about today is what is business intelligence, a few different ideas behind that, and we're going to do an actual demonstration of some Microsoft BI, and then we'll answer some questions. Keep it kind of simple as far as the overview is concerned. One of the first places I like to start is by defining what is business intelligence. I still find it hard to answer the question sometimes, and it's not because I don't know the answer. It's that it means different things to different people. There's not just one definition to what is business intelligence. BI is a huge term that encompasses lots of different areas, and inevitably, what I think business intelligence is will be different from someone else's definition. Now, here's one of my favorite definitions. It's about getting quality information into the right people's hands in a format that allows them to understand the data quickly so they can act on it. Now, business intelligence is not just about decision support. It's not just about the making of the decisions. It's not a methodology with step-by-step instructions. It's not just about reporting services or Crystal Reports or Excel, or the tools that we use to make these decisions. This isn't SQL Server. Analysis services by itself is not business intelligence. And you don't have to have a data warehouse to do business intelligence. Of course, there are other definitions. Wikipedia says business intelligence is a set of theories, methodologies, processes, architectures, and technologies that transform raw data into meaningful and useful information for business purposes. I like this one. It's a nice, simple way to define BI. The only thing that's missing is the making sure that the data that you get into the end user, is in a format that they can understand quickly. Sometimes business intelligence fails at the usability end of the spectrum. And of course, you all can read. So here's what Gartner has to say, and CIO.com. So there's a lot of different ways that we can talk about what business intelligence is, and you'll notice that it's a broad term with a lot of opinion. One way to visualize the needs of a business intelligence solution is kind of by this chart here. What I'm trying to reveal with this is that a team leader would have fewer BI needs than the person managing several team leads. The person managing several team leads has fewer requirements than the person managing several people who manage team leads. And the executives would have the most business intelligence needs. Now, if we switched it, though, if we turned it around and then we take a look at the level of detail needed by position, it's reversed. Let's say that a team leader has 5 people reporting to them. That team leader needs to be able to look at detailed records about those 5 people. He needs to be able to identify trends and patterns about an individual employee. A lower manager may be looking at the performance of each team. So up at the top, we're looking at detail. So this is the highest level of detail. And as we go down, we're looking at lower levels of detail. The executive doesn't have time to read through every detail of a yield report. Let's say that we're in food manufacturing. We have 10 machines, each recording 50 transactions a second. Our executives aren't going to be looking through those reports, but they will be interested in the aggregations. Are they going to be looking at a per machine basis at the yield report? Probably not. That's probably reserved for someone in this spectrum up here. Team leads, lower managers, and middle managers are identifying what machines might need help. But then our executives are looking at what's the overall yield. Last month, our yield was 93.5%. Where are we this month? So as we move up the chain in the hierarchy of our organizations, we tend to look at more aggregations. So more aggregates here, and then down at the team lead, we're looking at fewer aggregates and more detail. We're looking at the actual yield per production order so we can find ways to improve. This is what business intelligence is all about. And we need to define these levels so that we understand fully where it fits in the enterprise. Now let's talk about a typical BI implementation. Logically, you would start with some type of data entry system. This could be a CRM system where you're entering customers, responding to customers, and tracking opportunities. You'll have an order entry system where you're entering your sales orders and purchase orders. Point of sale system, warehouse management, internet shopping cart. Once we have the data entry systems in place, and most companies will have multiple data entry systems, then we can talk about a data warehouse. So all of these systems will get put into the data warehouse because from there we want to report our reports against the data warehouse. Our enterprise reporting system is going to give us multiple options. So if you're a team lead, your reporting is probably directly into these systems here. You want to see the individual yield per run. You want to look at a particular order. You want to look at 1 or 2 or 3 individual entries by your team members. If you're the executive, though, you want to go against the data warehouse. You want less detail and more aggregations. You want to see how is this working within the enterprise. Now that's not everything. There's one more aspect of a business intelligence implementation. It's training. You can give people great reporting systems, you can give them great reports, but if they aren't trained on how to use them, if they don't understand the meaning of these reports, if they don't stop bugging your IT department to create new ones because the reports are already there in the system, but this person just isn't figuring it out, then it's going to be a failure for that person. So training on how to use the reporting system is going to be very important. So what does this look like from a technical perspective? Well, you start with data entry. This could be keyed into the system as a sales order or scanned into the system by a barcode reader in the warehouse. The data is stored in a database or several databases. We combine that data into one centralized data warehouse. And the data warehouse, in the data warehouse, we can transform some of the data, do some calculations, etc., clean it up. And then we create OLAP cubes. Now there's 2 philosophies here, obviously. Some feel that you should have one, what's called a hypercube, where all of your data is in one place. Another philosophy is to have multiple cubes so that you have different business areas segmented. And you'll have to figure out on your own which is best for you. Now once we have our cubes in place, our reporting system has a place to get data in an efficient way. The tools used for reporting could be Excel in the form of pivot tables. It could be SharePoint, Performance Point Server, Excel services. It could be SQL Server reporting services, whether natively or integrated in SharePoint. Or it could be a third-party application. Now these tools can connect to the cubes or the source system, or a data mart, which could be some combination of the two, depending on the need of the consumer. Now, ultimately, Microsoft BI consists of a set of products that provide a complete and end-to-end set of BI capabilities. This can be simplified into 3 key areas. The first is about connectivity. It's important to recognize that Microsoft BI sits and works on a heterogeneous stack. It's not just about SQL Server or Oracle data sources, but about working with a wide array of data sources, both structured, unstructured, internal, and external. The second is a set of enterprise information management and BI platform services like analysis services, reporting services, integration services, master data services, etc. And SQL Server is considered the most widely deployed platform for these platform services. The third is about tools that the end users use, whether it is Excel workbooks or Power Pivot solutions or SharePoint dashboards or scorecards. These capabilities are delivered through the productivity and collaboration tools that customers are most familiar with, and in most cases already have a use, which is, or they already have them in use, which is Office and SharePoint. So the simplified view of what is Microsoft BI boils down to the capabilities that you see on the left-hand side and the products that deliver these capabilities on the right-hand side. I think it's important to point out, however, that the business intelligence front end is really only the tip of the iceberg. The real work in delivering consistent information happens behind the scenes in data marts and data warehouses. And commonly, if a business is unhappy with their business intelligence tools, something is usually wrong with the back-end data warehouse. Now, another thing about BI that I want to bring to mind is that I think it's all about monitoring change. It's identifying the things that are trending upwards or trending downwards. You see here we've got 5 questions. What's happening? What happened? What is happening? Why did it happen? What will happen? What do I want to happen? Past, present, and future. So you kind of have to understand, you also have to understand why. It's about understanding the context. For example, if we're a bike store and all of a sudden we had this huge spike in sales of mountain bikes one day, we might, if we weren't looking at context, we might think, well, we need to make sure on Fridays we have a large stock of mountain bikes. No, it just so happens that there was some major charity event where those people that rode in the race got a tax credit for buying the mountain bike if they donated it to the charity after the race. So therefore, it was a one-time thing. We don't want to buy and have a lot of mountain bikes in the store anymore. Let's wait until next year. If they're doing it the same thing again, then we'll order extra mountain bikes. So you have to understand the context behind these trends, the context behind the numbers, so that you can either prepare for success or prevent failure. Now also, when you're identifying trends, you can identify trends in quality control. Is your marketing working? Are you getting more people to sign up? One problem in marketing is that you can generate a lot of interest. A lot of people come and sign up, but they're not buying. Generally, that tells you that you were targeting the wrong groups of people. So you have to figure out where and why and understand the context behind the numbers. So as a company, your company wants to react to changes, right? If the economy is tanking, you might need to start monitoring your customers and monitoring your pricing. We need to look at what our competitors are doing. We also want to cause change by changing buying habits or interrupting people. They weren't looking for mountain bikes, but now we're going to do some interruptive marketing and make them actually be interested in purchasing mountain bikes. Maybe new features, new pricing. Okay, this isn't business intelligence, right? But that's what a company wants to do. Business intelligence, though, is getting that information in the right people's hands in a way that lets them understand the data quickly. So we have to allow management to be able to make the right changes. We have to give them the information that allows them to have confidence in those decisions. And we have to help them understand, what changes are having the most return on investment, the least return on investment. What needs to get cut? What needs to survive? That's what business intelligence is all about. We want to react to the change and cause change as a company, as an organization. To do that, we need great reporting, and that's what our business intelligence system is all about. The best companies put more money into projects with a better return on investment, and they kill off or lessen projects that have little or no return on investment. Business intelligence just simply helps you do that. Now, if you've got that mindset of a small company, you might be able to run that business on your gut feeling. You've learned a few things, and based on those things that worked, you decide you're going to continue to do what it is that's working for you. And it works. It works from your personal experiences, and small companies can be run by gut decisions. It's worked for you in the past. You're going to keep doing that. You talk to someone at a networking event, and your friend is doing something. They're in a similar industry, so you're going to try that for your company. The decisions made at the small company level aren't always based on the analysis of lots and lots of numbers. A lot of times they're based on that gut feeling. But when you get into the larger companies, the CEOs, the management, the VPs, they have to have buy-in. They have to convince the board members or an investor or investors or your other managers. You have to get buy-in from people. You can't just go based on gut feeling. Now you have to dig into the numbers. You have to do trend analysis, data mining. That's business intelligence. That's what it's all about. So what is the typical situation? Let's walk through it. How does it look from a practical standpoint? Okay. So first I want you to imagine that you went to your favorite store in the mall to buy a pair of jeans. When you pay for your jeans and walk out, you may or may not know that your favorite store has gathered some new data about the jeans you bought. They know that you bought jeans and at what time that you bought your jeans, the type, the brand, model, and how much you paid for them. So put yourself in the shoes of the director of jeans supply for your favorite store. Day in and day out, she has to figure out how many pairs of jeans she should be ordering. The only possible way for her to make an educated guess about this is if she knows how many are being purchased by customers. Now, as the data sits today, the director of jeans would have to look at every single transaction made throughout each day to see how many pairs of jeans were purchased. But this takes up way too much time. And since this is a decision that the director of jeans has to make every week, she decides to use a business intelligence tool to provide that information. The use of a business intelligence tool allows the information to be regularly rolled up and formatted just right so that the director can make a much more educated decision about how many pairs of jeans to purchase. Additionally, now the director has more time on her hands so she can analyze in much further detail. So basically you can think of business intelligence as the process of going from raw data to legible information. Now consider how broad the business intelligence base is. For example, have you ever received a receipt from an ATM machine that provides the current balance of your bank account? Of course you have. Or perhaps a detailed bill in the mail. These are all forms of business intelligence or BI. Let's take some time and go over some common forms of BI. First, we'll talk about operational reporting. This form of reporting is akin to the detailed bill in the mail or the ATM receipt. It provides a very structured template of how data is to be delivered to the end user. The end user, their experience needs to be considered in a lot more detail, as the path of analysis and how the person will consume the data are typically nested in the report templates. Second, we have ad hoc reporting. This type of reporting is intended to empower a business person to play the report authoring role. By doing this, the look, feel, and content of the report can be controlled by its consumer. Most ad hoc tools have built-in assumptions regarding design and navigation to keep the business person from getting overwhelmed with complexity. The queries and their structures are maintained by IT and are developed jointly with business user inputs. Now, third, we have OLAP tools. This is the type of analysis. This type of analysis delivers pre-calculated and pre-structured data sets for business people to explore. You could simply connect with Excel, and there are many tools that connect to OLAP, and these tools feel more like data navigation tools than pure report authoring tools. Fourth, we have data visualization. This is a category that has recently emerged in popularity. It covers a realm of BI that's kind of about small decisions, micro decisions, and it's about big data and that sort of thing. And in data visualization, the roll-up of the data is commonly conducted algorithmically and stored in memory. This makes the experience of the BI more plug-and-play in nature, and it also allows the business to answer one-off questions in a much simpler way. Because the roll-up of data commonly occurs automatically, it also tends to be very processor and query intensive. Fifth, we have dashboards. As you would expect, dashboards typically represent a high-level view of an organization. This keeps the executive from having to thumb through hundreds of reports and data elements. If a troubled area arises on a dashboard, the executive can drill into the alert to see a more detailed report. And often dashboards are simply compositions of various delivery methods we just discussed. So each of the delivery methods I've described above typically comes as part of a suite or a platform for managing the various forms of content. This means everything from scheduling automated report delivery to keeping the data secure are all conducted in a single platform. Now, I'm sure there are another dozen or so forms of business intelligence, and this presentation isn't meant to cover every way you would consume data, but hopefully you can get a sense of some common ways businesses are turning raw data into comprehensible information. So let's see what we can do about showing you some actual content here. Basically, let me start where I'm talking about Adam Barr. He's my example for today. He's a Contoso telco executive charged with improving customer profitability. So he's going to begin his day opening up the Contoso Communications intranet site, viewing the main dashboard, which is loading up in front of you now. The home page here it represents multiple performance point server scorecards using a slider web part right up here. So the first one is ARPU, AMPU scorecard. So that's average revenue per user and average margin per user. And then we have a churn and revenue scorecard as well as subscribers and HR. Our featured KPI is average revenue per user, and it looks like it's within its acceptable range, but our average margin per user is outside of our acceptable range. Down at the bottom, we have a reporting services map, another web part, we have a Twitter feed, and a ticker across the top. So this is a nice executive dashboard. So Adam immediately notices that he's got this average margin per user that's out of range. So he's falling short in that area. So he looks at the ARPU, AMPU scorecard, and it's displaying values that are an issue in the central and the south regions. They're not meeting their targets. So he decides to research the issue further by navigating to the customer profitability dashboard. So we have our customer profitability dashboard from our drop-down on the navigation bar. So Adam notices the profit scorecard in the upper left-hand corner. Right now it happens to be filtered on 2 areas. So we've got, this is what it looks like with all of our regions. You'll notice the bottom changes, the bottom AMPU by service type changes. And since he's interested in the central and the south regions, we'll filter those out. And you'll see the bottom changes again. He also notices issues with the metrics for subscribers and cost in the central and south region. So Adam wants to explore the AMPU by service type report at the lower left corner of the page for the central and southern regions. So he filtered that out. And he notices the central region, the blue bars, is doing better than the southern region, the brown bars. So to gain more insight, Adam decides to change the report view from AMPU by service type to AMPU by age group. And noticing the slight differences between the age groups, Adam decides to investigate further using the Visio segmentation report located on the right side of the page. So the report can also be filtered by region, like this. While adjusting the report from region to region, Adam notices differences between age group, retention cost, and profitability. And as a result of this analysis, Adam concludes that the central and southern regions may have a lower AMPU because they have fewer subscribers in the more profitable 36 to 45 age group and the 46 to 55 age groups compared to the other regions. While this is an interesting lead, Adam wonders if the type of device, meaning the phone model, will provide additional insight into why the central and southern regions have lower AMPU. So he decides to use a tool called Pivot, the Pivot tool, to perform this analysis. So Adam opens the Pivot tool and changes the view to bars by region, like this. And the result is a display showing the distribution of device type across 5 regions. So this isn't very informative, so Adam decides to view the distribution by AMPU. This view is more interesting. It shows that the distribution is heavily weighted toward the lower AMPUs. And since he's interested in why AMPU may be low in the south and central regions, Adam filters the display to show central and south regions. The result is a view of the distribution of device type by AMPU. And here, all ranges of AMP are shown. But Adam wants to zoom into the lower AMPU data, so he filters the display to show the distribution of devices with AMPU less than 2.96 or $2.96. So we'll use this scroll bar to filter that out. Now the result is a display of the device distribution at lower AMPU for the south and central regions. So another important metric is churn. Which devices have churn rates above the corporate goal of 2.5%? So we'll go to the churn and we'll look at churn above 2.51. Oops. No, above 2.51. Good enough, right? Adam can quickly find out by filtering the display according to churn values above the goal. So having isolated a relatively small number of devices that are causing issues, Adam changes the display back to the grid view so we can see larger images. You can click on the image by itself and look at the criteria of that particular device. This analysis enables Adam to pinpoint specific devices in the central and southern regions which have low AMPU, high churn, and low revenue. Now this insight will help generate corrective actions to bring these metrics back to the corporate goal values. By clicking back on the query bar, Adam discovers these low margin, high churn phones in the central and southern regions are associated with plan types Nationwide Plus and Nationwide Select, and they're also associated with device types, smartphones, and prepaids. So since Adam also knows these regions contain many leased towers, he sends a request to Jenny to research the impact of third-party tower leasing costs within these data sets. So Adam, our telco executive, is also charged with revenue management. So sometimes, instead of starting with his dashboard, he'll open up Outlook to check his email, and when he does that, he notices an email with a report that he previously set up to be emailed to him once a week. So here, this graph shows that revenue is below quota in all regions. So to investigate further, Adam opens up a SharePoint dashboard, and he can do that from the link inside the email. We've been here before, and Adam specifically now wants to investigate the churn revenue scorecard. So we'll go over here, click on the slider. He immediately notices that the eastern region is the worst performing region with revenues below target and trending downward. So Adam wants to understand why the eastern region is underperforming, so he can access more detailed data either from the dashboard notification up here, or the navigation tool, or directly from his scorecard by right-clicking and clicking on the revenue dashboard. So the revenue management scorecard provides, let's see, we've got, not filter anything out currently. So the revenue scorecard provides a detailed look at revenue, including a scorecard that displays a number of revenue-related metrics. So Adam immediately notices a red KPI indicator and a downward trend for the metric ratio of billing XDRs to network XDRs. So since the XDR data is related to the wireless line of business, Adam decides to filter the dashboard display to show wireless data for September, October, and November of 2010. The current report in the upper right of the dashboard displays revenue by line of business, but other reports are available. So we can see revenue by value score, revenue by age group, and revenue by service type. Adam decides to focus on revenue by service type and age group. So he notices that although below quota, wireless revenue in the eastern region is highest in the 20 to 35 age group. And also, by service type, he notices that 4G is outgrowing 3G revenue in the eastern region. So Adam investigates further. He starts by sorting the data bars on the age group. So he can see it with a little more visual clarity. And to view how service type is distributed in the 20 to 35 age group, Adam uses the decomposition tree tool. So right-click on the 20 to 35 age group, decomposition tree. And we want to see service type. So this display shows that the 20 to 35 age group contains more 4G than 3G subscribers. Adam wants to know more detail on the specific 4G services these subscribers are using, so he continues the decomposition tree to another level. And now you can see that among the 4G services, LTE has the most subscribers. Adam wants to know what device types are the most popular within this and other services. So you can click on LTE, go to device type, and now we can see that the multi-touch device is the most popular. Now the graph at the bottom of the revenue dashboard displays revenue versus cost within each state. So this graph is interactive. By hovering over New York State, the revenue bar, Adam can view the real-time data points for revenue and cost in that state. Now that Adam has researched revenue-related data, he returns to the KPI, XDR KPI on the revenue scorecard to investigate why this indicator may be underperforming. And he accesses a Silverlight-powered Bing mapping tool that displays cell tower data across the US. So we need to go back to our original dashboard and go to our Bing mapping tool. The tower leakage analysis allows us to identify wireless activity through specific towers that have discrepancy between tower reported usage data and invoiced usage data. So any amount that is reported by a tower but is not subsequently invoiced to the subscriber is considered leakage revenue. So first, let's just take a look at the cell towers and in the US. And Adam wants to hone in on the East. And Adam suspects issues in the state of New York. Before zooming into New York, he decides to simplify the display by filtering map data to show New York and the vicinity only. So what we'll do is we will just look at our high leakage. We're going to zoom in a little bit so we can see New York. And then instead of the viewpoint, we're going to look at a proximity. And now we're able to isolate 5 cell towers with leakage. And now that by hovering over these towers, we can tell which towers they are. And now that Adam has identified the 5 specific cell towers with revenue leakage, he requests additional analysis from one of his business analysts. So one last scenario here. Adam is also responsible for reducing customer churn. Excessive customer turnover. He begins his day this time again with Outlook and sees that there's a report for his churn report that he has automatically sent to him from reporting services. So as like before, I'm going to click on the link that takes him to his executive dashboard again. And after viewing his, let's see, his churn revenue scorecard, again, he sees that the East has a higher churn rate than is acceptable. So Adam would like to understand why the East region is currently experiencing high churn. So he navigates to the appropriate dashboard. So we want to go to our churn management dashboard. So we can get more detailed information. Now he can access the dashboard through our drop-down, or he could have right-clicked on that metric. So Adam immediately notices, okay, we have inferior KPI indicators on the churn scorecard here for overall churn rate, right? Revenue lost churn, and number of churned customers here. Now it was filtered on wireless. And we'll look at the entire year. So now Adam reviews the churn rate by line of business report, which is over here, displaying the churn rate for January through November. So we're looking at year to date, where he notices the churn rate increasing over the past 3 months in the wireless line of business. So now, to gain a better understanding of the line of business churn rate in the current quarter, Adam adjusts the dashboard time filter to look at those last 3 months. There seems to be a higher than expected churn for voice and wireless lines of business. So Adam adjusts the dashboard to filter on those 2 lines of business as well. Filtering by voice and wireless also causes the bottom right segmented reports to be filtered by the same criteria. So the report on the lower right of the screen can also be viewed by other dimensions. So in this example, Adam can view churn rates by LTV score, churn rate by age group, service type, and churn reason. Now these reports enable Adam to draw some conclusions regarding how churn rate may be correlated with segments within these 4 factors. Specifically, the churn rate is higher for customers with lower LTV scores, the 20 to 35 age group, the landline and 3G services, and when a contract expires. The SSRS map of the United States in the lower left-hand corner provides Adam with a view of current geographical churn rates. So Adam notices high churn rates up in the east, supporting his earlier findings. So by clicking on the color scale at the bottom of the report, Adam can review an additional SSRS churn report detailing churn segmentation data across each region. Adam now uses the forecasting feature to display an analysis services projection for future churn rates given past performance on these 2 lines of business and others. Here's our forecast. So in summary, the reports, maps, and scorecards on the churn dashboard have enabled Adam to narrow down some potential causes of customer churn in the eastern region. He now directs one of his business analysts, Jenny Merrifield again, to perform a more detailed investigation of specific factors that may be causing the recent increase in churn. Armed with this information, Adam plans to provide targeted recommendations for reducing churn. That concludes the demonstration portion. That leaves me 9 minutes left. I'm doing good on time. I think the next thing that we're going to do is try to answer some questions. So I'm going to go back to not sharing my desktop. If that's possible. And let's see what kind of questions we can answer here. You have a chat box that allows you to type your questions so we can try to answer as many as possible. One question I have here is this core SharePoint AXBI or is it an add-in? And to be honest here, this is a lot of what's possible with Microsoft BI. I mean, there's plenty more that's possible, but I've shown you some Silverlight add-ins, some custom dashboards, SSRS, reporting service, performance point, Visio, decomposition trees. I mean, I've shown you a wide variety of different things that can be integrated into a BI solution. So it isn't, none of this is core. It's certainly not core AX, but it's just an idea of what is possible with the visualization part of Microsoft BI. We didn't get into a lot of things. I mean, we didn't get into Power View. We didn't get into Power Pivot or Excel, or, I mean, there's plenty of things we didn't get into. So if you have specific needs, you know how to reach me. I'm going to make sure that we show that at the end here. Which, by the way, I think I want to share my desktop one more time and put this back in while we're answering. While we're answering these questions, oh, here's a quote. I'll leave that up for a second.
Hey, Tom, if I could just jump in for 1 sec. First of all, thanks
Yes.
so much for going through all that. Some really great material here, and glad to see some questions coming in. There have been a couple questions about recording the event, and this event is being recorded, and we'll send out an alert to all of you when the recording's available, so that you can either view it again or share it with your colleagues.
And Jason, can I get a view of the questions while I'm sharing?
So if you sort of hover while you're presenting there, if you hover at the top of your screen, it should bring down a pull down where you can see that, where you can bring up the chat, and if you look on, you should see a QA option 2, and I can see some of them coming in.
There it is. I got it. I'm good now.
So there's both separate. Yep.
The version of SharePoint here was, let's just double check. I'm pretty sure it's 2010. Yeah, SharePoint's 2010 in this demo. I'm not going to try to answer this completely online. The question is, when you pulled up the forecast dashboard report, what was the forecast BI based on? Is there a place to enter real forecasting trends data? The answer would be this is built into this demo. So if you were going to enter forecasting trends based on your own calculations, then we would do this a little bit differently, and I would rather just take that one offline. So the person asking that question, I'm going to go and to the next slide that I wanted to show, and so you have my contact information here. Whoops. Just email me, and I will set something up to answer that question a little bit better for you. Let's see, what other questions do we have? I don't have any. I'm looking in the chat too. Let's see. Is there any in the chat?
You should see a couple new ones in there from me that I forwarded on to you there.
I see that. Where do we get this presentation? Jason, did you?
There was a question. Well, under the chat there's a new question about sort of methodology or best practices for the data warehouse, data transformation, creation of cubes. For
Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
So one of the hardest parts of a BI project is building the back-end data warehouse, transformations, cubes. For Dynamics Nav, AX, there's a sure-step methodology for implementing those ERP. Don't you think a sure-step methodology would be helpful to both partners and customers? You know, I think it kind of, this is going to be some opinion here. I think it sometimes depends on the customer and the implementation. And the reason I say that is the ERP is sometimes more, implementation just takes longer, it's more involved. Whereas we have a lot of templates that we can start off with when it comes to cubes and data warehouses. And then each customer is going to be different in what they need in addition to that information. We at Columbus, we have our own methodology. We follow the SureStep Plus is what we call it for our implementations. And there's a particular type of implementation that we use for our BI projects. But it still kind of depends on the size of the project. Some are more extensive than others. But you're right in the fact that the data warehouse and the cubes are definitely the hardest part, and they're the most important part of the BI solution, I believe. Because I think if you remember one of the slides with the iceberg, if a customer is having problems with their BI solution, it's almost always the data warehouse and the data marts that is giving them the trouble. Okay, I got that one repeated a few times. Okay. I don't have any new questions right now, but we can hang out for a few minutes in case anybody comes up with any new ones. If we don't run into any more questions, I do want to say that thank you very much for joining today. There was a lot of folks from a lot of different areas of the world that took time out of their day to listen to some information. And my email address is on the screen. If you've got more questions, if you've got more technical questions, I've got plenty of people on my team that can help with that. So I look forward to answering those for you. And if there isn't anything else, again, thank you for joining. And I'll just kind of hang out for a few minutes in case any more questions come in, okay?